Want to learn how theory drives empirical research and how empirical research supports theory development? You're going to find out right now. Hey everybody, I'm Leigh Hall from teachingacademia.com, and I'm all about giving you the tools you need to navigate academia and make your best impact. Today, I'm really excited to share with you a guest on our show, Dr. Jeffrey Greene from the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. He is currently a co-editor of Educational Psychologist, and he's going to be giving us a little bit of insight into how theory and research support one another to allow knowledge development. So let's go check out what he has to say. Welcome, everybody. I'm so excited today to have with us Dr. Jeff Greene. Jeff, how are you today?
I'm great, Leigh. How are you?
I am wonderful. I'm really excited to have Jeff here with us. Jeff is the McMichael Distinguished Professor of Educational Psychology and Learning Sciences at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. And he is also the co-editor of Educational Psychologist. It's a really exciting moment, it sounds like, in your career to be able to do that. So Jeff is with us today to talk a little bit about the relationship between research and what gets published, right, in your journal, right? How empirical research influences what gets published in your journal, and vice versa, how it works in the other direction as well. So I thought, getting into this, it would make sense to tell us a little bit about the journal and the kinds of things you publish.
Sure. So I'm co-editing Educational Psychologist with Dr. Lisa Lindenbrink Garcia, who's at Michigan State University. And Educational Psychologist is one of my favorite journals, so I'm super excited and honored to co-edit it because it publishes conceptual and theoretical articles. So articles that speak to theory, that speak to our ideas about how constructs and ideas relate to each other and maybe influence one another. And the journal is really focused on ensuring that it pushes the field forward by positing new ideas about how things work that can then drive empirical research.
And so how have you seen that happening, or how do you envision that happening?
So we've actually started a new Twitter trend for the journal where we actually illustrate this. So we take a empirical article that just has recently come out, and we show how it cites an article from Educational Psychologist as the theoretical foundation for the empirical work. And so it could come out in the Journal of Educational Psychology or the Journal of Learning Sciences or Science Education. And the specific empirical article is about an idea that was first published in Educational Psychologist. And so our Twitter thread kind of shows how the theory paper in Educational Psychologist drove the empirical article, and then how the empirical article findings can actually get back into Educational Psychologists in future articles.
Right. So you've got the theoretical model. Somebody went out and did an empirical study with it, and then I'm guessing they would have found some strengths and some weaknesses with the model that either they could then go back and write a theoretical article, or it might inspire somebody else to write a different theoretical follow-up kind of a thing. Is that what you're finding?
Yeah, exactly. And so, it usually takes a bunch of different empirical studies to have enough to write a new article about a model. But if you go through the issues of Educational Psychology over time, you'll see someone comes up with a model, there's some empirical work, maybe the same person or a different person poses like a slightly different model or an updated one, more empirical work than another model. Sometimes those model or theory papers talk to each other. There's been some really fun kind of back and forth between the theory articles and Educational Psychologists, but that's how the science works. It kind of theory, then testing, then theory revision, on and on.
I think this is a really nice thing to point out, because I know people are really cognizant of theoretical articles and theoretical models in their field, and then people will be equally up to date in terms of the empirical research that is related to their field, but they might not have given a lot of thought about that back and forth relationship and how models get refined over time or even contested, right? Because I'm sure that can come up as well.
Yep.
So you have a Twitter feed that you said is documenting all this. So if people are interested in that, where should they go? Besides following you, and we can put your Twitter handle in the show notes for this, but what's the handle or the tag that they should use?
Well, if you go on Twitter and just search for Educational Psychologist, it'll probably come up. But the Twitter handle is @EdPsychJournal.
Okay, @EdPsychJournal. And then could people follow you directly as well if they're interested in this?
Yeah, @JeffGreene, UNC.
Okay, we'll put all of that information in the show notes. So what are some other things that you might think people, particularly beginning scholars, should be aware of in terms of this reciprocal relationship?
So, I mean, one of the ways in which I have made a misstep in the past is I have tried to do empirical work without really knowing the theoretical literature as well as I should. And so, you investigate something that doesn't make any sense theoretically, or that's already been thoroughly examined and you kind of didn't realize it. So articles in Educational Psychologist often have kind of a future direction section where they say, based upon the previous research and based upon our model, here are 5 or 6 great ideas for the next empirical study. And so that's a great place to get ideas and start building in ways that talks to the scholarly literature. So we sometimes refer to the scholarly literature as like a conversation, like at a party. And you wouldn't walk up to a bunch of people talking at a party and just start talking. You'd want to listen to what they're saying and then try to interject. Educational Psychologist lets you listen to the conversation first, so then you can interject in a way that makes sense.
I think that's really lovely, like a really great point about thinking about what is the conversation and how well do you understand that conversation? And then once you've got a good handle on it, how do you contribute, expand, ask questions about that conversation? And it sounds like part of what you're saying too is when you read an empirical study, go back, like look at those theoretical sightings, go back and take the time to read, not necessarily every single one, but the ones that look more relevant so that you can understand the current and the historical conversation that's happened about that. I think that's really good advice.
Yeah, and there are a couple different journals that we point people to that do that kind of work. Educational Psychologist is one of them, but there are these journals that they ask authors to bring together lots of literature and try to synthesize it. And it can be a great way to, get your feet wet in a new area. What's the latest article that someone's written about motivation? And you can go and find that and learn about where the literature's at. Right.
Well, perfect. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. And I'm going to put in to the show notes, I will put in your Twitter handle, and I will also put in the Twitter handle, I think, for Educational Psychologist as well, right? So that people can follow along, be a part of this discussion if they want to contribute, but certainly follow along, read it, learn, and get some really valuable information.
That's great. Thanks so much. Educational Psychologist really wants good submissions. We accept theoretical articles, conceptual articles, and meta-analyses. So we really encourage folks to take a look at us as a place for their work.
Okay, perfect. Well, thanks again, Jeff.
Thank you, Leigh.